Welcome to 221B Baker Street by way of the Southgate Bridge. I am your host, Zachary here, avid Sherlockian, and with me, how should I put this? What is the title again? Well, why don't we call him the Mike Rock to my home? Jesse Jackson, no, not that one.
Hey, Zach, how you doing?
Doing fine. We're still playing catch-up, as often happens with podcasts.
Yes, we are, but we're doing our best to catch up. And speaking of catch up...
Oh, you beat me, you son of a... Hey, we get to find out how the sausage is made.
Yes, we do.
I don't know if you caught it, but there was a lot of classic Holmes references in this episode, more than usual. They're like almost too much, because they're like just banging it out. They just threw away the... Did you catch all of them?
I did not. Do you want to kind of give me... do you want to bring them up now, or you want to, as we're talking about, mention it?
I think we could just bang them out, because they were just one-off references.
Okay.
Well, except for the guy. Okay, first, in Holmes' note, he mentions the Napoleons, which is, of course, a Holmes story, The Adventure of the Six Napoleons. A good one, definitely. And there's also, later on, when they talk about Annis, they said, oh, it's like that guy Musgrave, which, of course, is a reference to the Adventure of the Musgrave Ritual.
Oh, okay.
And the most, I believe, let me just make sure, I want to make sure I got all the reference. Yeah. And the last one is, of course, Holder showing up, because a barrel, that would be the Adventure of the Barrel Coronet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The person who brought the case to Holmes was actually Holder.
Yeah, very nice.
It seems weird to me, because of course they have references here and there, but they've never banged them out like that.
I wonder if it just, as they were writing, kind of, it worked to add them, and so they just went ahead and went with it.
I wonder if they have like a list of let's reference this, which again makes me kind of sad, because I want to see updated versions. I know they don't really do updated versions. Well, I know they've already referenced most of my favorite stories, so I know we're never going to see them. Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, there is a way they could do, now that I think of it, like in the original Holmes canon. Well, actually, I believe it was one of these where it was, there was they could do a case where actually Holmes talks about a case he did before Watson. That could be, and so we get to see an episode from Holmes, just Holmes from his perspective.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
It would be. I'd like that a lot.
We find out from Holder that Holmes has been skipping meetings. Ooh.
Yeah, and I love, as frustrated as I was, this is, to me, and I want to get your thought on it, very in character. Both of our main characters at times can be very secretive. And to not discuss this right away seems to be incredibly in character, and in their own ways making it more complicated than it needs to be. What do you think?
Oh yes, definitely, because obviously Watson's better at human emotions than Holmes, but still, even she can't just go up to Holmes and say, "Yo, Holmes, what's up?"
Yeah, exactly.
She has to expose him.
Yes.
So we also get our old buddy, our favorite medical examiner, calls in a case of a man who died from horse tranquilizer, but it turns out there's more to it, and even more disgusting, because he died from tainted meat, which turns out to be human.
Yes, and I was at first kind of, oh, hey, where are you going with this? But I ended up being pretty enjoyed this kind of journey we took with the whole, is it real meat, is it not meat?
There were aspects I really liked, yes.
Is it the evil ranchers, which is almost a throwback to a couple of old westerns where the ranchers are against the farmers, the sheep herders, and so that was kind of nice.
For a little while, I thought it was going to be some weird thing, like the evidence was faked, like it was cloned blood or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, writers, if you're listening, idea!
Well, they listen to us all the time, and they're very frustrated we're so behind, because they're wanting immediate, feedback from us.
Indeed. But, oh God, how about when Holmes sniffs the bag?
Yeah. you know, at 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 times, and it's actually more than at times, but I love when he does something so obviously either disgusting or painful, and he's like, looks in there like, oh, it was quite hideous to taste. It's like it's almost a little bit of a,
Masochistic.
a Spock or a Data where I'm
Oh
not going to
God, yeah.
show any emotion. So that was very, very cool. I like that a lot.
It's like, have a smell, and she's like, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it leads them to a butcher. I like how even hot. You gotta know. You know it's disgusting when the medical examiner's like has a look of disgust on his face.
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
And of course they go to the butcher shop with a nice punny name to it. As you noticed the name of
I
the
did
butcher,
not.
right?
What was it?
Brooklyn's Worst.
Oh, oh, oh,
And I
oh,
think,
I did. I don't think I caught that.
yeah,
And
well, it was a quick. Jesse, I gotta admit, I think this is the first time we've ever done a podcast together where I'm scared what you're gonna rate the episode by at the end of it.
no, I will keep it clean. I will keep it clean.
No, you won't. We
Okay.
know you won't. Okay, so the guys, well, very unsurprisingly, the butcher's like, no.
Yeah.
But Holmes gets, and he finds evidence that there was a body dragged and possibly an albino. And him being the usual equal opportunity says it could be a man or a woman. So
Yes.
then Watson again tries to get him to talk about not going to, like, what's going on with him instead of just outright asking him. Although no, I guess it's something I can address at any time in the episode. One thing that kind of weird is like so, because spoilers, I guess I should, but like an entire body is dragged down there, made into sausages in very Sweeney Todd style,
Yes.
and only one like. Shouldn't there have been like, oh, we tracked down blah blah blah? Apparently, because I'm pretty sure an entire human just doesn't make one sausage.
I, I am right there with you. I thought the same thing, right? That wait a minute. And it was a little bit creepy thinking that, this, and I did think of Sweeney Todd as well, and was waiting for a couple more references for that. Yeah, really, um, kind of, either they got lucky or we're doing a little hand wave that we just, for the purpose, we don't need a bunch of people dying for the
Yeah, I
story.
know,
So
right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that was I'm guessing it's a editing like there was some, but like it's like where's, and here's another thing, where's, I mean, I can, okay, I'll buy that the villain, who we find out who the killer is later, he managed to get a body down there, fine, managed to skin it,
Hmm.
fine, making the sausages, but where did he put everything else?
Yes.
Because there's a lot that even the most professional, I mean, maybe if there was an incinerator, I guess,
Yeah.
but there's a lot left over that wouldn't make it into the sausage.
No, not to get too cryptic or gross, right? But
Yeah.
excuse me, there's a lot of things that you'd go, wait a minute, what, that wouldn't go in the grinder at all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. As much as I like parts of the story, other parts, they didn't really delve into it much.
Okay, fair enough.
I think this is one of the more gentle rude awakenings when Holmes just kind of pokes her.
Yeah, yeah. And it's every show has, a reoccurring scenes or things you do that's part of how you make a show feel familiar. And I liked the whole idea of, he's always waking her up and it's always a little bit different, right? So yeah, it was a fun change.
Although another thing, unless I'm wrong, is do we ever find out why the meat guy was at the butcher shop? I mean, I know people were protesting, but Well, if he believes in clone me. Okay, wait, yeah. If he believes in clone me, he probably is an animal rights activist. Okay, never
Yeah,
mind. Doesn't really
yeah,
explain that way they were arguing. But turns out it's not an albino. He has, I think I'm saying this right, Villalago.
I think so. And I had never heard of that, but that
Oh,
doesn't
really?
surprise me. No.
Oh, it's basically a skin. You probably have seen people with it. It's basically a it's condition where it's like I don't know if white people have a version of it, but I know it's like if black people or Hispanic people get it, it lightens their skin in patches.
Okay. Okay.
So I guess it would make. I don't see. Again, that's as much as I know about it. So I guess
Okay.
it makes your hair. I mean, but so Watson follows Holmes, and turns out what he's doing is actually um, playing in the park, which we'll find out why in a second. Although I just saw something else. Okay, so they're protesting the thing because it's butcher your own. Now, if you're an animal rights activist, fine, but it's like so the butcher shop is okay as long as it's in the butcher shop. I guess because you can't guarantee cruelty free. But here's the thing, though: who's going to that? Who is learning to butcher some in their walk up their studio apartment in New York?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I can understand maybe like 'cause I live in a town that's like half rural, half you get more rural the more north you go, but it's like here I can buy that people learning to because there's farms around here, but in New York, in Manhattan, what the?
Yeah, that does seem a little weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, okay. So they actually managed to track down the woman who turns out to be Norse and friend of Walk, but and she says, "Oh, they must have finally got him." And it
Hmm.
turns out, as we know, he is at one of those places that make. No, I've heard of this stuff, and I find it some of it's fascinating. Have you ever looked up because you know this is real, right?
I assumed it was a little bit, but no, I don't know much about it. So please share.
I know bits and pieces. I'd have to really. I mean, there's different versions of like different ways you can grow it, and I've never tried it myself, but I try a bite.
Yeah,
But as we all know, with any technology, you never try the beta test.
it's a good point. Good point. Yes.
I mean, and it's very fascinating to think of the idea of one day we'll. I mean, if it's good and healthy, why not?
Well, it's almost it's a very consistent um, story in a lot of science fiction, right? That you have synthetic meat, and you because of resources or whatever it is. So yeah,
Right.
um, and it is. I don't know how I feel about that. Growing up in a dairy farm, my grandparents owned a dairy farm. It was something, fairly, we ate a lot of, you know, raw milk, and also we certainly had that a lot of my grandparents, slaughtered and butchered their own um, animals. You know,
Hmm. Did
um,
you ever have someone fall into the meat grinder and made into sausages?
no, we did not. I can promise you, we did not have that.
I think you would have noticed. But
Yes.
I no, I see where you're coming from exactly. Well, here my take on it is, and we should probably, but this is
Yeah.
we're becoming an opinion podcast. But what I think is like if it's safe, fine. But I don't trust the corporations to
Oh,
wait
exactly.
before it's safe, but whatever. So
Yeah.
they find out that the guy was like this genius. I'm not even sure exactly what he was, but he was like a wizard at the clone meat, and I like how through an investigation, Holmes. I was really hoping we were going to get a scene where Holmes could like they were like, see if you can tell the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he did that with Watson with one of his wake ups, but I want to see Holmes do it.
Yeah. I think that would be very interesting to see.
Mm. And he exposes a spy apparently from, as Holmes like to say, big meat.
Which I thought was funny.
You know, it's like a reference back to when they had cocks.
Yes. I um I I did want to go back to I really like the scene in the park with the kind of unofficial quartet, and I don't know how often he performs with them, but I thought that was interesting, and it was a neat scene.
Yes, indeed. It should be interesting to see if they explore that some more. And so Holmes, we had a little everyone reference because Holmes needs their help breaking in a few firewalls. And this is another thing I would have liked to have seen: Holmes doing stand-up comedy.
Yes. Yes, please put that as a DVD extra. Or
I know,
release it
right?
on YouTube. I mean, something, people. We need this.
Exactly. So, yeah, we also get Watson. They finally, after that's what we were saying, taking forever. They finally tell each other that they obviously know that he's not going to meetings, and he thinks he needs more of it. And it's something that's been referenced many times. It's a very good continuing nature of it. Is that he hates the fact that sobriety is just going to meetings, talking a little bit, and that's it. He needs to be challenged, and he wants to challenge himself. But Watson makes and it's an interesting point because he's not. But Watson also makes a good point that almost everyone that tries to, if not everyone that tries to do it, fails and goes right and uses again.
Yeah, and I also love the point where she says, um, that just makes you normal. We're all bored at times with the meetings, you know? You're, um, what is it? Um, they're one of the sports talk shows I listen to talks about nothing is more interesting to have someone talk about their fantasy football team, and nothing is more boring to the rest of the world is hearing you talk
Yeah.
about your fantasy football team. And I think to a certain degree, right? Like, in most cases, sharing could be very boring. Now, it might be interesting and helpful for them, but um, so I think that's a very true kind of experience of, and I have not been to meetings, so I do not know, but I could see, right, that, um, oh, you're, because it's kind of like going to church.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Sometimes church is boring, you know?
Sometimes. But
Yeah.
so anyway, yeah, but she makes a good point. Like, yes, it's boring, yeah, and everyone knows it's boring, but that's why, because people listen to your problem, and because they know you'll listen to this. And I think it's an interesting sub point that they kind of make but didn't really make, in that he's holding back because he doesn't want to say so, like, I'm the smartest. But she's, as much as might come off as a dick by saying it, he's not fully opening up, and maybe that's why he's not getting as much out of the meetings as he could be.
Right.
And I look forward to them exploring it. Oh, and now since we're talking about me, something I forgot I was going to reference. When Holder comes, and I think I've heard of this before, but I'm not sure. He says to Watson, "Are you a friend of Bill W?" Did you catch that?
Yes, I did.
I looked it up, and apparently this is a real phrase. Bill W. was, and I swear I've heard this before too. He's one of the founders of AA.
Yes, and I thought I'd shared this before, but maybe I hadn't. Um, if you go to Dragon Con, which is one of the massive conventions, it is a massive convention that happens in Atlanta over Labor Day weekend. Every night on the about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, there is a Friend of Bill's panel. And that's all they call it, but it is on the schedule. And which tells you how much alcohol is drank at this convention that they feel the need to have an official Friends of Bill panel every night. So, and I've always assumed, I've never asked, but that is an AA meeting for people attending the convention who want to attend, who need a meeting, and that way it's right there at one of the hotels where they don't have to go find another meeting, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, I'm not even a former addict, and I get wiped going to conventions, so I can understand if you are one how stressing that could be.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I thought that was a really nice touch, and very, very cool.
So through Holmes' investigation, they actually find out that the farm, whatever you want to call them, the big meats hired a team of assassins.
Yes.
But it also turns out the assassins had absolutely nothing to do with Locke's death.
Yeah, I like that kind of, when I talked about earlier about the twists and turns of the case, I thought that was pretty interesting that we did, no. Well, we were gonna do that, but, but turns out we didn't.
Can I ask, where is the hitman so stupid they're keeping records of everyone they killed?
Sometimes you just, you need that, I guess. You're like, well, I gotta have it for my taxes. What? No, you don't.
Now, here's also something I think not really addressed.
Yes.
So we're just going to gloss over the fact that a corporation hired a hitman, and we have proof of that. I mean, I'm pretty sure someone's getting prosecuted besides the hitman. They will make a deal by giving up the people that hired them.
Absolutely.
I mean, but whatever.
And Zach.
Oh yeah.
Let me get on a little tangent.
Okay.
It'll be the little guy that was just following orders, not that that's okay, I think this is a bad idea, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, I thought
they were just trying to make meat great again.
That's all they were trying to do.
Yeah.
It's what's beef, it's what's for dinner.
Where is it? Now,
thank you.
Holmes has Bell looking because he believes something's, because a guy like Walk, who was he was really good at his job, would never pass in subpar work, and he was right. They find a flaw, which leads them. I see the guy's name is Farley, and he kind of admits to flubbing the data. But he says, "Listen, just because someone flubbed the data doesn't mean they killed him," which turns out he's right later, but he refuses to admit to it. Now, next after that comes a scene I particularly like. I think it's because it brings up a very interesting idea, and I wonder if it's ever been debated in real life, because I love having debates like this where you have a group of rabbis and imams debate the fact that, would this meat be considered kosher?
Yeah, that was an interesting take. It is, I was raised in the South, Louisiana, Kentucky, and so did not meet anyone of the Jewish faith or Jewish background as far as I knew till I was an adult. So I'm fascinated by people who keep kosher because it seems so elaborate, and and I love the idea of these dietary laws and how you follow them. So would it not be? I think that's, if it is, right, it can make a lot of money for people, which is how they point.
Now, unless I'm crazy, but after Watson runs into the little religious discussion, doesn't she go downstairs and yet somehow ends up in the kitchen?
I think so.
And she even says what's going on upstairs. I'm like, that's not how the brownstone is laid out.
No. But they normally, I'm sure they don't make that kind of mistake very often. So you wonder if I just wasn't caught something. I thought the same thing. And
I know. I thought it was something like that. I was like, so Holmes puts forward that it actually would be better if Schmeat, as some people call it, is not classified as meat, because if it tastes exactly like meat, it would allow people of faith, and considering how many devout Muslims and Jews there are in the world, it's a billion-dollar market.
Yeah.
Now, they actually do something here I kind of like. They confront Farley and says, "We believe you didn't kill, well, we'll make a deal with you." And he does something I almost wish would happen more in shows. I always like when they have absolutely nothing on one of the suspects, and yet the guy still makes a deal. He's like, "You got nothing, goodbye."
Mm-hmm.
And they don't. I just like that because I like, because a lot of times they have to trick them, which they kind of do something later. But the guy, it's true. The guy can just walk away, and he does.
Yeah.
I just find it. I do such, and they actually turn the table because they tell them they say that they talk to the rabbis and the imams that obviously devout men of faith are not going to be okay with the fact that hey, we killed a man to get this done.
Yeah.
So now they can't prove obviously without testimony that that they killed the man, but they can make it so there is no money. So there's no reason to go through with it. But if they make the deal, although that really contradicts since the guy still killed. Okay, actually, yeah, that's something I want to address. Wouldn't it be that because it turns out that the data was changed, so shouldn't it be that Schmeat becomes meat? Remember?
Yeah, good point. I'm not sure.
And even if the deal is made, they still killed a man to do it. So I would think the rabbis and imams would still be like, no.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. It's something that's I don't know. There's a few plot holes. I wouldn't call it a bad episode, but there's a lot of. I would hate to use the word lazy because I would never want to say that about the writers.
Yeah.
I don't know, but so anyways, they peel the Farley's greed, and he, not surprisingly, turns on his boss,
Mm-hmm.
and he ends up making money, but they get him sent to prison, and apparently Meat's going to become Schmeat or whatever, and the episode ends with Sherlock saying, like, I'm the smartest man. But although he kind of, not in a way, but he kind of has said this at meetings. I think it was I forget which one it was, but there was one where he says, I see things, I use it to dull my senses. That's why I took drugs. And he has kind of said something similar in the past.
Right.
And the episode just kind of ends there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to call this a bad episode because it had really interesting parts and the stuff about Sherlock fighting his sobriety, but the case it had interesting aspects, like the stuff about the religious stuff and the cloning, but I find it kind of forgettable.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the thing that I stuck with me the most on this one is the discussion and the Joan and Sherlock discussing on what do we do and this I always love because they do it very rarely the his sobriety. It's always there, and it's something they're working on. So I'm happy with that part of it. Yeah, it's, and I think that's strong enough that I'm gonna, when we go to our ratings, I will give it a fairly good rating. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So for me, well, I'll do a quick. I really only have one favorite line for this week's episode, and it's "Murder is not kosher," which actually would make a great episode title.
Yes, I thought it was. In fact, it seems like it almost should be a Castle, episode.
Oh no, not even a Castle
title.
episode, a Castle book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was I didn't have too many lines at all. The one thing that was cute is when he talks about he was going to do the stand up.
Oh yeah,
I
kind of meant to reference that again.
I invite you to come, but my plan is the steak.
Yeah, he could have done good. I love the idea of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. For me, my final things on it is it's not a bad episode. It's got interesting aspects, but it's pretty forgettable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it did have good aspects. So I mean, I don't know. It's good though. It was decent, but I probably won't go back to it.
Okay. All right. Well, I would give it 7.5 board meetings.
Really?
Yes.
That's a little too clean.
I wasn't gonna go.
You copped out. You've let us down, Jeff.
Oh no. It is. It is. Like I said, this has been, I think, a good season, and so and the characters, the discussions and everything makes it enough that I'm pretty happy.
I wonder if it's kind of weak because this is the episode before the midseason break.
Could be.
That happens a lot with shows. They take the episode they don't really care much about because the next one's the big one.
Yeah.
So that could very well be it. So that's basically what we say. Do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm good too.
All right. Well, I was going to ask, how can people find you, Zach?
Well, they can always find me on Facebook. Just look for any of the Southgate Media pages. And, of course, the Baker Street podcast has its own page. And you can also find me on Twitter, Interim Insanity.
All right. And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. On Twitter, I am on Facebook as well, Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. And you can hear me on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, with fellow Southgate Media host Charles Skaggs, and my own podcast, Set Lusting Bruce, where I have people who are fans of Bruce Springsteen and other musicians join me, and we talk about their fandom journey.
All right, so that's all for this week. We're going to try to keep trying to play catch up. So until next time, everyone, the game is afoot.